Our gospel parable today reminds us that there are two sides to every door. For every door has people on the outside and people on the inside. On the outside lies Lazarus, where the dogs come to lick his sores. On the inside is, of course, the rich man, the one who dines sumptuously every day. Yes, there are two sides to every door. So then we need to ask the important question, who has the key? Who has the key to unlock the door so that Lazarus might come in and the rich one might go out? Who has the key to unlock the door? Well, the universal truth is this: doors are usually locked from the inside. It's true. Those on the inside are the ones who lock the door. Therefore, it's important for you and I to realize that when we are on the inside, and we're on the inside, we have life pretty good. We are abundantly blessed. And so because we are on the inside, you and I then have the task, you and I have been given the responsibility, you and I have been given the call to find creative ways to unlock the door. Because the door oftentimes is locked not out of malice, not out of even being intentional about it. It just gets locked because, of course, as we're reminded in today's first reading from the prophet Amos, we just become complacent. Complacency is not necessarily in and of itself a bad thing. It just means sometimes we're just content. We're content with the way things are. We're convinced perhaps even that things just are never going to change, so we have to accept what it is that is before us. And so we become complacent. But the prophet Amos reminds us, woe to those of us who are complacent, who lie on our beds of ivory and who somehow seem to think that we just have to accept it because, well, it's the way it's always been. There is always going to be those on the outside. There's always going to be those on the inside. No matter how hard we try, no matter what we do, it's always going to be. So it's easy for us to become complacent, to become convinced that there's nothing that can be done. But I would contend and share with you that the opposite is true. Every day that I've had the privilege of being the pastor of this area of faith community, and in particular the Church of St. Mary, every single day I give thanks to God for these parishes, for the leadership in these parishes. Because 40 years ago, there were leaders here at the Church of St. Mary who realized there were people on the outside and there were those on the inside, and there were leaders in this parish who recognized that we needed to be creative. We needed to answer the call to get up and to unlock the door. So what did those leaders do? Well, 40 years ago, they made a commitment, the same commitment that is made to this very day, that the Church of St. Mary here in Willmar, Minnesota would tithe 10% of every dollar that is put in the collection baskets. 10 cents of every dollar that you and I put in the offering every single weekend, that money is set aside. And it's never used on paying the bills. The electrical bill, the utility bill, the heating bill, the bill for staff salaries. No. That money, those leaders decided 40 years ago, would only be spent on assisting the poor, the Lazaruses of our own day, who are lying at the doorstep, who long to eat the scraps that fall from our tables. And I could stand here today and I could tell you thousands of stories, literally thousands of stories, of how that decision 40 years ago, and that decision that continues to be made, why I can tell you stories of how it has lifted up those lying on the outside of the door, how it has given those people a sense of hope, how it has helped those people who find themselves because of an illness, because of a loss of a job, because of something that they had no control over in their lives, that has found them in a moment of desperation with no place to go, no place to turn, no one that can help them. So they come here, mindful that it's difficult to ask for help. And they come here, and because of people who have used their creative energy that God gives to us, why we are then able to respond to the poor. We are able to help the Lazaruses that come to our door. And while we do that as a parish and as an area of faith community, and I want to take this opportunity to commend each and every one of you for your participation in that, whether you were even aware of it prior to tonight or not. Know that you are making a difference. You are helping us to get up and to unlock the door from the inside, so that we can then open the door, that we no longer have to have these haves and have-nots. We no longer have to have the rich and then the poor. We no longer have to have them and then us. No, the parable of Lazarus reminds us today that God's way of working is not the world's way of working. God's way of working is to turn things upside down, literally on their heads. Because today's parable is radical. Radical for those who first heard it, because, of course, everybody is convinced, and I would contend many of us are still convinced today, that if you're rich, it's a sign that God has blessed you. If you are poor, it is a sign that you have been cursed because of something you've done wrong in your past. And yet the story of Lazarus reminds us that in God's mind, that is just not true. Rich does not equal blessing. Poor does not equal curse. No, you and I are all sons and daughters of God. You and I are all redeemed by the loving life of Jesus Christ. You and I are all people who have been invited and sit on the inside, to be invited to get up, to use our creative minds and our energy to go about the work each and every day of being attentive to those sitting on the outside, on the fringes of life. And you and I are called and challenged each and every day to get up, to unlock the door from the inside, so that those who go without, those who suffer, might be welcomed in.